Hi there, and a very warm welcome to Frugalfull. My name's Lara. This is a frugal living and budgeting channel. And Happy New Year! Here is to 2025, and I wish every one of you a wonderful year. I really hope it brings all the things you hope for in life, and I hope that it's as budget friendly as possible. Easier said than done, I know, because there are many things that have gone up in price over the last few years. It can be difficult. But for those of you who are doing a low spend January or a no spend January, I wish you all the best with that. I hope it goes really, really well. It's such a fantastic way to start the year. If you're not sure what one of those is, then I have videos that I've done previously about low spend and no spend months, including last January. The reason being, as you'll have guessed from the title of this video, I have just finished a low spend and no spend 2024, and I'm very excited to have a wee frugal chat to you today about that in this video. I cannot believe that my low spend, no spend year has finished. Wow, what a year it's been. I've learned so much from the experience. So there are different ways that people do these low or no spend years. So first of all, I'm going to back up a bit and just kind of differentiate between what's a no spend year and what's a low spend year. But in a nutshell, it's what you decide to make it. The definition will vary because it's such a personal thing of what you feel you want it to be. So I started 2024 with the intention of doing a complete no spend year. A no spend year, well, we have to still eat. We have to still pay our bills. There are certain expenses that are unavoidable, because we can't go and crawl into a wee cave and never spend a penny. So with that being said, a no spend year, my idea around that had been not spending on non-essentials, having a set, so through the year I've had a set food budget every week, and I'll go into that in more detail in a wee minute. But the idea was not spending on non-essentials and not spending out with certain sinking fund categories. So I'm going to be adapting it a little in 2025, but during 2024 I had approximately 10 different sinking funds. I won't go into huge detail here about what they all were, but some of them were to do with monthly costs, monthly expenses, where I was allowing myself a small spending limit in those sinking fund categories. So they covered different things, like for example allotment, because I have a wee plot, which is a great thing. So I allowed myself a certain amount, say if I needed to buy seeds or something, but there was a spending limit. And then there's like kind of more like not even medium term, like things coming up that year that I knew were expenses that I had to plan for, like my cat Bella's vet bill annually, and like gifts, Christmas, birthday gifts, that kind of thing. So they're kind of like annual or not monthly, but reasonably frequent expenses. And then like sinking funds for things that are longer, a bit longer term, like having an emergency fund, sinking fund. So I wasn't planning to ever like spend in those, just to save. So that's the kind of idea. So it was going to be no spend because it was going to be no spend beyond these parameters in the sinking funds and in the weekly budget for food. So the food weekly budget covered food, household and essential items. Well, there was a kind of a sinking fund for that as well for last year, but I'm changing that. But it was like, I'll start again. It was like food, cleaning products and household items like, say, toilet rolls, that kind of stuff. It was toiletries and any kind of medicinal things like pain relief, because we get free prescriptions in Scotland, which is amazing, and long may that continue. So we're very fortunate that medical costs aren't high, and thankfully for me, well, there has been quite a big medical thing in 2024, but generally health-wise, thankfully, I haven't had to but even if I did need medical care, you know, it helps that there aren't like big medical bills in Scotland, and we're very lucky, very lucky. And then there's also been a food bank part. So these are the kind of 4 strands of that £25 a week budget for food. Every week of the year for 2024, I picked up a food bank item and I took those to be given to like a women's refuge shelter charity, which I was really, really grateful to be able to give in that way. So that meant a lot. So I did that, and there was a Frugal Advent video about that. So basically like £25 a week for food, and then the limited spending in the sinking funds. That's how I set up my budget for 2024. So even though it was no spend in terms of aiming to do no spending outside of these categories, I now have got to the point that I think about my year that I've just had as a low spend year, because I did still allow myself to spend, but I just had, as I say, parameters around that. So, for example, I had like a social and a day trips fund. So I was still allowing myself to do these things. I still had a treats fund, but I actually introduced that after February, because at the beginning of the year, the sinking funds and the spending limits were actually too tight and rigid, and I ended up with frugal fatigue. And in February, I overspent in the sinking funds, and I actually couldn't stick to those tight limits, so I allowed myself to have an increased bit in sinking funds and have a treats fund, and that went a long way to helping with my budget in 2024. So I think what I'll do is I'll break it down. First I'll talk about the food related things and how that went through the year. Then I'll talk about the sinking funds very generally and how that went, and then let you know kind of like the lessons I've learned and pros and cons and my plans for 2025 moving forward with budgeting and frugality and low spend and no spend and my thoughts and plans. So before I get started on that, just to say, well, first of all, would love to hear in the comments what your plans are for 2025. And I hope that if you're doing a low spend year or a no spend year, or for January, a low or no spend month, I hope it goes really well, and it would be amazing to hear your plans in the comments. Please say hi, have a wee chat to us below. It would be brilliant to hear about what your thoughts are around this and your intentions, and I'm wishing you the very best of luck with it. The second thing to say before I get into this is a massive, massive thank you. This morning, New Year's morning, what a beautiful surprise to wake up and find that I've hit 1,000 subscribers. I am over the moon. I can't tell you how excited I am about this. Absolutely delighted. I started the channel at the end of November 2023, and never did I imagine I'd reach 1,000 subscribers, and it really means the world. Thank you so much to everyone who watches the videos, likes, leaves comments, subscribes. lets other people know about the channel and all the support and encouragement people give and the lovely frugal community we have. It's absolutely amazing, and I enjoy every minute of this journey, and I love sharing this frugal journey with you and into 2025 and beyond. So I just wanted to say again, big thank you. It means so much. So let's get started on the budgeting. So the why of my budgeting, of doing the low no spend year, the why changed through the year. My initial reasons had been two major things. One had been to get a budget-friendly laptop computer, and the other goal I had was related to trying to save so that I could afford to get big jobs done in my flat in terms of decorating. I have a lot of things to get done to finish my flat. It's been like a work in progress for about 6 years. I've done some decorating, I've got the plastering done, I've got most of the electrics done, I've done a lot of painting and decorating, but there's still a huge amount to get done. So these were my kind of two goal areas for 2024. Just to say that I had to modify that because at the end of 2023, I had an accident, I fell, and I really badly broke this wrist. It's made an incredible recovery, though I still have ongoing problems with it, unfortunately, but on the scale of things, they're not too much of a problem and it's manageable, which is just wonderful, and I'm so grateful for that. However, it put me out for some time, like I had to go through quite a bit of rehab with it. I was unable to work for a considerable time. Thankfully, I'm able to work now, but it really set me back. So obviously I had to prioritise budgeting with the fact that I couldn't work. But the low no spend really helped me stay on track, really helped with mitigating the knock-on effects of that. This is the thing about frugality, it really helps us to be flexible and adapt to changing circumstances, and it was a real godsend. So just to say, in terms of striving for the other goals, it didn't go to plan for the decorating, saving, but I did manage to get the laptop, which was good. I got that in January on a very special deal. So with the sinking funds in January, I didn't meet my goal with them because I also bought the laptop on a really good deal. I had a little bit of leftover money from 2023, so I did meet that goal right at the start of the year, and then shelved the flat goal in order to prioritise day-to-day living costs and just staying within my means as best I could in the situation. And I have a budget buffer, so that helped as a shock absorber as well, which was fantastic. But anyway, food related, what I'll do is I'll explain what months I was under budget, so didn't spend the full amount, which months I was on track, on budget, and which months I overspent. So the food budget from January to April, I meant to say it was actually $27.50 a week at that stage in my budget. I then cut it down to $25 a week from May onwards. So a 4-week month initially was £110 a month, and $137.50 for a 5-week month. It then became £100 a month for a 4-week month and $125 for a 5-week month. So the months that I was under budget, that is that I didn't spend the full amount and I had some left over to put towards other living costs or decorating money, to shelf for now, but was January, I was £14.89 under budget. Then February, I was under budget by 92 pence. April, I was under budget by £20.62. And then in June, I was under budget by £6.96. July was a really good month. I was under budget by £32.78. And some of the months I actually, when I was under budget, I put that towards wee holiday fund, which was really great to be able to afford a little bit of a trip and a treat that way. The months I stayed on budget with food shopping were March, May, August, September and October. So basically, like all the way up to the end of October with my food budget, I was either under budget or I was on budget. And I'm really, really pleased that I managed to stick to that. It went really well. November and December, I went off course with my food budget because I did a lot of bulk shopping, stocking up, but the big thing was Christmas food costs, including Christmas food gifts. I went way over budget. The great thing is that, like I say, the budget buffer helped soften that blow. Also the fact that I'd sold some unwanted items on Vinted and eBay, and that made a big difference as well. So it wasn't so bad in that sense, but it's a bit frustrating because I'd done so well the other 10 months, but I know why that happened, and it's one of these things. What I did as well in August is I'd bought spare items and stocked up on things at a really good discount price. And I did like a frugal store of surplus things I didn't need yet, and I did like an IOU so that I was kind of buying them by paying myself back in September and October for some things. And that was quite helpful for certain food things, but not helpful for things that are considered treats, because then I just overindulged in the treats and they didn't last. So I would do the kind of frugal store IOU thing for food that isn't as exciting and appealing and tempting. But if you go back to my playlist from August, you would see what I was talking about with the IOU, frugal store and all of that. I'm not going to get into all that right now. But what we can do is we can go into the sinking funds briefly now. So for sinking funds, in January, as I explained, I'd bought the laptop on a really great special deal and used some funds I had left over from 2023 towards that goal, which really helped. And I got a really great price on it. So that was a very achievable goal, but did mean I went out of the sinking fund parameters in the first month. In February, I did stick to my sinking funds, but I also ended up buying things that I didn't need. And that's when I realised I need a treats fund, and I had frugal fatigue already in February. So I created the treats fund, and it was a complete game changer for the rest of the year. It really made a big difference. I felt too deprived before that, so that really helped. I guess that's when it became a low spend in my mind more than a no spend, because treats are a non-essential, but we do need a little bit of what we fancy in life to help motivate, especially when trying to go and undertake something like a low or no spend year. And then I was on track with the sinking funds and stayed within my budgets for them in March, April, May, June, July, August, September, and October. Yay! So I also was on track because of the fact that I'd sold some things on eBay and Vinted, decluttering stuff that I no longer needed. That all helped me stay on track as well. So I won't go into all the nitty-gritty of numbers, but I did sometimes pick up things in the year that I needed, that would have blown those budgets of the sinking funds, but because of the sales, it kept me on track. So for example, things like I got an external hard disk, I'd get the odd takeaway for a treat. I got things like a rucksack for my holiday travels. Yeah, they're the main things I'm seeing jumping out on the page. And then, it's just as well, in August, no, what am I talking about? In October, I had a surplus of sales money and I'd stayed on track with sinking funds, and that money got put towards Christmas costs, which is just as well. And like I say about the IOU, the frugal store for food in August, I did a similar thing in August with certain household things I needed, like a steam iron because of my wrist. The steamer was easier to use. Things like some digital scales and different bits and pieces I needed for my home, like practical items. Also some clothing, practical clothing items I needed. And it was way cheaper getting them on a budget in sales on Vinted in charity shops when I'd seen things. It kept the cost way down, but I did like an IOU. So what I did is I froze a bunch of my sinking funds for the rest of the year. And then rather than having money in those sinking funds, I paid myself back to the budget buffer like an IOU. So, and I stuck to that pretty well. Just like with the food though, November and December, it went a bit pear-shaped. I overspent in November and December on my gifts sinking fund in a big way. But it's okay because I've learnt from the experience. I was able to manage it because the budget buffer came and helped. The sales on Vinted and eBay help. Not that I've sold a huge amount, but every little helps. And it also helps reduce clutter because it's me just getting rid of unwanted things. So November and December I went off course with my budget in this low no spend year that I've just had. But it's okay because I was able to mitigate that, like I say, with Vinted and eBay sales with the budget buffer. So the big lessons I learned in 2024 doing this low and no spend year, and it was such a valuable experience to go through that. I really enjoyed sharing that, sharing my learning from that. But the big important lessons I gained from it were, first of all, having that treats fund, which was £15 a month from March, made a big difference to help combat frugal fatigue. In 2025, I'll still allow myself a treats fund, but what I'd like to do where possible is go through my stuff and gift myself something I already have and that I'd forgotten about, or something that I've got that I haven't looked at yet or opened yet, because there are some goodies from my holiday from my 40th in 2023, and I've still got some things that I'm still to like have a look at and enjoy. So I was thinking, rather than spending the money, gifting myself the thing, I can share that with you. I mentioned the idea of this in past videos and people were keen. So the months that I do that, which will be as many months as I can manage it, but I also have to be aware to allow myself the possibility of a treat that I buy so I don't get frugal fatigue. But the months that I use an existing thing and treat myself, what I'll do is save that money towards getting the flat done and try to also raise that amount of money by selling something else that I already have that I feel there's no need for me to keep in my life anymore. And then that way it's like raising the £15 and I'm gifting myself the £15 towards the goals that I had in 2024, just to help start working towards those goals in 2025 instead, if that makes sense. But I'll like be able to share about that as time goes on and as I go along, and do that on some months. A treat substitute and declutter and sell a thing of my own, like a personal challenge. Very happy to chat about it on the channel though, if you'd enjoy that. And it also is a wee bit then I can share about the things I like, and so yeah, so like a treats frugal store, I guess. And then the second lesson is what I also did is I modified sinking funds a bit as I went along, because I was learning which ones were priority sinking funds. Some were no longer priority, so I reduced them down, and I'll take them away from my budget, take them out of my budget going forward, and increasing and modifying existing ones. So I increased my social sinking fund from £10 to £25 from May. That made a big difference, because I kept like having to combine the social and the day trips to be able to afford the social things. £10 a month is not enough for social. So I upped it to 25, and I'm going to increase it probably to £30 a month for 2025. And what I'm going to do in 2025 is just the sinking funds I've got, I've revisited them, I'm adapting them, as I say, removing certain ones, increasing amounts in other ones to modify it to match my lifestyle and my needs and my preferences moving forward. So when I'm sharing my frugal journey on here, I won't go into the nitty-gritty of sinking funds, but I will continue to have them in my life, and I'll continue to stay within them wherever possible. So it will still be a low spend within the parameters of my sinking funds, but I'm not going to like be logging how did it go with all the sinking funds. I'll be keeping track of that in my own personal banking. And my sinking funds, I can see they're delineated and they're clearly identifiable. So I can tell if I'm keeping on track, because I can see what my balance is and what I've spent. But I won't kind of catalogue it month by month in the way I have been on the channel. So also having the option of putting sales money from eBay and Vinted unwanted things and decluttering towards the monthly budget made a big difference. That helped me keep on track, because realistically £25 a week for the food, cleaning, household items, medicines, food bank, did I say toiletries too? That's not a lot, it doesn't stretch far. So sometimes having that sales money too for a helping hand was a great shock absorber. So I'm going to allow myself to have the shock absorber still. It also means I can afford a treat like a takeaway or something, or an occasional meal out from time to time as part of my food budget, if I allow myself that wee bit of flexibility from a bit of sales money. If and when I sell anything, because sometimes I don't for a long time. But it would be good though, sometimes, if I can put a wee bit of that money from decluttering towards the decorating goal. But we'll see, there's some flexibility, but if it's going to help with like mitigating extra living costs, then that's fine as well. And then the frugal store, like I described, bought surplus items cheaper to save the costs over time and pay myself back. It did help with the non-tempting things, like I say, but it kind of complicated things, and then I had to keep track, and like I do like the idea of the IOU thing of that for if I was on a really tight budget on a certain month. It can be helpful, because then I've got a store of things to help stretch my budget further. But I probably won't really do that as a strategy very much going forward. It's going to be more likely to be if I saw a really amazing deal, Like say for example, toilet rolls were really, really cheap or something. Maybe I could like stock up on a bunch of them and use the budget buffer as part of that. But rather than feeling like I've got to pay the budget buffer back, it would simply just mean that in future months, toilet rolls wouldn't really be something I'd need to spend anything on. So it would just kind of help stretch my budget further in that long run. And if I ended up coming out under budget and had a wee bit spare for the food budget money, because of not needing to buy as many things, because of stocking up, then that could just get paid back to the budget buffer then, if you see what I mean, but not tracking every single item like that. It's very time consuming, and I've got the intention there and I've got the mindset. So, you know, like that will carry over into the positive impact if I do stock up in that way. But rather than having to itemize it like that, because I'll be still continuing to track and log my food spending and everything anyway, so I'll be able to easily tell how that's going and if it's working out to plan. So my best frugal months absolutely were in June and July. I did really well. I was really on the ball on those months. My hardest months were November and December. I wonder why. Christmas, I overspent. But hey. So yes, holiday temptations were a big factor. Other possible factors, I think, were health related. So this was a factor. So I reined things in because my recovery was taking so long, and I was very mindful of that and the impact that had on my budget. So I was extra careful in the summer months. The weather helped. Having more daylight hours helped because I could do things like be out having walks and things. So I wasn't spending as much because I was busier being out and about. So those were the big things that I felt were factors. And also socialising wise, when the weather's good, you can do more walking and things like that too. So that helps with costs, keeping them down. Yeah. Well, what I am hoping to do also is bump up the budget buffer to ensure that there's always that bit of breathing space and wiggle room. It's a separate thing to the emergency fund. The emergency fund is for true emergencies. Budget buffer. The budget buffer is for months where my spending limitations, which are pretty tight, where I end up going over them, it just creates a bit of a shock absorber. But apart from like stocking up on certain things, if there's an amazing deal, I'm not going to go out of my way to be blowing my budget and overspending. It's not there for that. It's just there if needed, if I'm a wee bit stuck. Because sometimes in life things come up, things are needed at short notice, and it can just derail slightly the targets. So just knowing that there's that there. And I'm so grateful for that, but that's one of the gifts of frugality, is it can help reduce stress around finances. Just to have that little bit of a cushion can make a big, big difference. One of the many things that I'm grateful for about frugality, one of its many benefits. Coming up soon, there will be a video about what I feel are the benefits of frugality and why I would recommend it to anyone as a lifestyle choice. So, on to January, on to 2025. What are my plans this year? And am I going to continue doing a low spend year? As I say, I'm not describing it as a no spend year anymore, 2024. I see it as a low spend. For all the reasons I described earlier. I won't go back into all that. So the answer is, for the most part, yes. I'm going to continue my low spend into year 2 of low spend. Woo! Yeah. So the way I see it is I am continuing with my low spend journey into year 2 of low spend, which I'm very excited about, but I'm making some modifications. So the big budgeting strategy and thing I'm focusing in on, and that I'll be continuing to share the journey of on the channel primarily, is around food budgeting. That umbrella of things, and a £25 a week limit for those things as far as possible. If I can't manage to stick to it because I've needed to stock up on something really expensive out of my control, or buy like my big bottle of laundry liquid that costs about £7 just for that, things like that, it's unavoidable up to a point. It might go over a wee bit, but wherever possible, I'll be sticking to that £25 a week limit for myself. And I'll continue to share about how my low food spending is going, and more from practical points of view as well, like what did I buy, what food shopping did I buy, and how am I going to try and make that stretch. I'm going to still try and even more so limit the amount of times I'm going into the supermarkets wherever possible, because that reduces the risk of overbuying. And I'll probably still do the bulk shop sometimes. I might do that to stock up on heavy items. But however I go about it, I'll share that and how it's going. And also, it's not always easy to stick to that, but I'm going to try and have fun with it and just use it as an opportunity to kind of learn and grow about how to make really budget-friendly meals, as even further than I've already been doing in 2024 with slow cooker and soups and lots of healthy things. And I'm looking forward to sharing about that, because to me, finding ways to stretch my food budget is a major tool for frugality, and I'm always looking to learn new skills about how to food prep in a really budget-friendly way. Always welcome ideas from all of you as well, and looking forward to being able to share about how that's going and ideas and things that are working well, so that it can hopefully be helpful to other people too. So that's going to be my kind of big frugal focus in terms of really sticking to a strict budget to help me towards getting decorating done. The sinking funds will still exist. I'll continue to do low spend, so having sinking funds with parameters and sticking to those. But from a lifestyle point of view, they're not going to be as limited and restrictive. I'm going to adapt what my sinking funds are, have more of them if needed, up what I'm allowing myself in them to match my preferences, priorities and lifestyle, remove the sinking funds that no longer feel relevant. And then that way I'm having a lifestyle that is more aligned with all the things that matter most to me, not feeling deprived, still being able to experience things that are so important to me in my life, but still doing so sensibly and on a budget. But I'm not going to go into like sinking fund nitty gritty and how that's gone. But suffice to say, it will still be a low spend ongoing, because I'll still be like following that practice of staying within sinking funds, even if they're more generous in some areas and removed in other areas and cut back in other areas. It will still be part of how I structure my budgeting journey and my ongoing low spend kind of ethos, way of having my daily life mindset. I feel like even though I've been doing that technically for that year, ongoing, it's just a mindset and a practice that I want to continue with, because it's become quite natural, you know. It's become just quite automatic to want to budget and live in that way, but not to deprive myself or anything, but just to continue like having that kind of mentality, because it's very helpful for staying on track with budgeting. So yeah, it will continue forward. And yeah, another big thing is like reducing any risk and temptations to overspend on treats. But like I say, the treat sinking fund has really helped with that. Having the shock absorber of sales money has helped with that. So that's an ongoing thing. And like I say, kind of my own treat store of things. If I've got things here and I'm like, I'm going to keep this thing, and that's going to be what I call my treat of the month, is deciding to keep something that I really enjoy. So I have been talking for a long time. Thank you for sticking with me, and I hope that you found this helpful and interesting. It's been very, very good to be able to share with you all about it and what my plan is for 2025. So in a nutshell, 2025 in particular, I'm going to really keep that focus going on the £25 a week limit wherever possible, sticking with that to help keep on track with budgeting. Food is definitely an area I struggle not to overspend on, especially November and December, but 10 months I managed and I was on it, so I'm looking forward to getting back on it. And in January, I'm going to be doing a low spend, no spend, like around food, especially honing in on that. Looking forward to sharing that with you about how that's going. One of the big plans as a part of that, like I say, is going to be to do with batch cooking, looking at super budget friendly cooking in general, sharing with you about like my foodie purchases and what I have in mind for super low budget meals. And one of the big things I'm going to do this month is, for as long as possible, stay out of the supermarkets. So I'll let you know how that's going, and hopefully as far into January as possible that I can get without having to set foot in any shops to buy any food. Because first of all, there's loads in the freezer, there's loads in the cupboards, there's loads in, well, yeah, I think there's quite a lot in the fridge still, yeah. So there's plenty of food to munch my way through to keep me going. The other big reason is I want to kickstart and really take seriously and really get into a weight loss journey this year. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you too. And as a part of that, being on track with food budgeting and frugal, healthy meal prepping will go a long way towards those weight loss goals as well. I'd love to hear what your goals are and what your frugal focus is for January and beyond in 2025. Let us know, and let's do this. Let's do this together. Thanks a million for watching. Very best wishes, and I'll see you soon on Frugalfull. Bye.